Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. For some context, I'm 27, female, and my brother, 35, met his wife, 25, when he was 30 and she was 20. This wasn't his first marriage, as he had been married and divorced to his ex due to unknown reasons. They were married for about 2 years when she decided that she no longer wanted a relationship with my brother and thus decided to leave him. My brother was never really close to my family. You can actually say that about my entire family. We're not close to each other due to completely different personalities, interests, and just the fact that we don't really get along well with each other. So when my brother got married to his first wife in a courthouse wedding, and we only met her a handful of times, it wasn't that surprising. Even when my brother got divorced from my ex-sister-in-law, I wasn't aware of any of the details, and neither were my parents. He did not even come to any of us for any comfort or seemed upset. I knew my brother was kind of toxic just by the fact that with every relationship he got into, his next partner would be younger than his older one. So when he was 27 with his ex-sister-in-law who was 22, his current partner turned out to be 20 when he started dating her while being 30. I have always found this slightly creepy, as I do not see a lot in common between a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old, but I do not bother to ask or talk about it, as I do not want to meddle into this matter, especially when they both seemed happy. One thing different about this relationship of my brother was the fact that his girlfriend was very engaging. She tried to get to know us all, stayed in contact with us, and would often check up on him even more than my brother ever would. My parents instantly fell in love with the idea of having her and my brother getting married. So when they both got engaged, my parents were ecstatic, and my sister-in-law, being the lovely person that she was, tried to involve everyone in her small backyard wedding. And just like that, after about a year of dating and a year of being engaged, my sister-in-law and my brother got married. I was very happy for them, as my family needed someone like my sister-in-law to keep us bound together. I had moved to another country right after their wedding for a job opportunity, so I wasn't able to keep much contact with my family, except through video calls every now and then. As I stated earlier, the lack of contact with my family did not bother me much, as this was how things always had been. About 3 years had passed since I moved, and I was informed by my sister-in-law that she was pregnant. Being the youngest in my family, I was very happy to know that I'll be getting a niece or a nephew of my own to spoil and to love. So I decided to fly over to my home country during Christmas to spend time with my family and to see my sister-in-law. Surprisingly, my parents seemed too happy to know I was here. I was going to be living with them throughout the trip, and as my brother and sister-in-law lived far away from their place, they too had come over to stay with my parents for Christmas. Everything sounds pleasant and happy, right? But there is one thing I felt suspicious about, and that was my dad. It always felt like my dad had been wanting to tell me something since the day I landed here, but always missed the opportunity to do so, as someone always interrupted our private conversation in one way or the other. So Christmas comes. A few of my sister-in-law's side of the family have joined us for dinner, as well as a few cousins from my side of the family. We all had a good time, danced, exchanged gifts, and enjoyed karaoke. One thing I noticed throughout this trip was how my brother talked to my sister-in-law. His extremely rude tone towards her was completely unnecessary, and the way my sister-in-law got startled just by hearing his voice had started to concern me. The same thing happened during Christmas dinner when we were all eating together at the dinner table. Every single one of my family members and the guests were present. Everyone was enjoying a nice dinner and having a conversation when my brother started yelling, blowing up at my sister-in-law. Now, if one would have heard this scream without context, they would have thought that my brother probably saw my sister-in-law do something really bad. But you know what enraged my brother to the point that he left his dinner in anger? The fact that my sister-in-law had forgotten to make the pasta the way my brother liked it. Yes, this is why a 35-year-old man who is perfectly capable of making his own food or adjusting for a meal blew up at his pregnant wife. My sister-in-law instantly starts tearing up as my sister-in-law's side of the family just looks at her awkwardly, and my mom continues to berate her for not being able to do anything right. My dad just shot me a look, and it clicked to me that this is what he had been wanting to talk to me about. This entire exchange enraged me, and I decided to go talk to my brother, who was now sitting on the couch watching TV. I walked to my brother and tell him what he did was extremely wrong and how my sister-in-law does not need to be treated so poorly for making small mistakes. My brother just looks at me and starts laughing. His laugh is scary, and honestly, it managed to intimidate me. I have never had such a conversation with my brother, and this was the last reaction I expected him to have. My brother just sits there silently as my sister-in-law walks up to me and starts yelling at me for being rude to my brother. At this point, I'm dumbfounded as I sit there confused. It took a minute to realize that yes, it is me who is getting yelled at and not my brother. I am furthermore shocked to hear that my mother and my cousins tell me how I basically ruined the entire night by meddling into the matters of my brother and sister-in-law, and how I should keep my mouth shut because I'm the youngest. I was honestly too shocked to speak at this point, so I shut up. All my brother tells me is that I should probably leave the house tomorrow, as I clearly don't have the basic manners to respect the person who is hosting me. Huh? I thought it was my parents who were hosting me. This statement confused me, but I decided not to ruin the night furthermore for these people, as I am clearly not needed here. I go to my room and spend my night there, where I call and discuss my situation with a couple of friends of mine, and my boyfriend, who tells me that I might be the a-hole, technically, because I shouldn't have jumped into matters which my sister-in-law clearly did not want me to. I did not do this for any sort of appreciation. I simply did it because I would have wanted someone to stand up for me as well if I was in her place. So AITA for standing up for my sister-in-law? My sister-in-law knocked on the door of my room at around 4 a.m. in the morning. I was quite surprised to see that it was her. She had brought me a cup of warm coffee and asked me if she could talk to me. I told her I wasn't interested if she wanted to argue with me about my brother, and she promised me that isn't what she was here for, so I let her in. She started off the conversation by apologizing to me for everything she had said last night. I was confused at her change of tone, so I asked her, why did she even do what she did? My sister-in-law teared up as she started to explain to me the reasoning behind her reaction, and it all fell into place for me. So basically, after getting married to my sister, my brother had decided to work on a startup with a school friend of his. My brother was always the nerdy kid in school. He was extremely smart, especially in the field of science, so it wasn't surprising to me when I found out his startup had done amazingly well. My brother was in a great position financially now, so much so that he let my sister-in-law become a stay-at-home wife and also took over the finances of my parents. My sister-in-laws and my extended family belonged to the lower end of the middle-class strata, so he also started supporting them as much as he could. As you all know, being financially dependent on people, oftentimes, more than not, comes with obligations. My brother took advantage of exactly that. He started treating everyone in my family poorly, especially my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law had become like a doll for him to play with as he made her do things that he wanted, knowing full well that she had no escape from him as he financially manipulated her. Hearing all of this made complete sense to me, and at the same time broke my heart because the reaction of everyone around me made sense. I did not say much, just heard my sister-in-law out as she then proceeded to make a request which I thought would never come from her. My sister-in-law begged me to help her escape my brother. She told me that if she didn't escape, he would manipulate her child similarly, and she really did not want that. This surprised me, as I really did not expect my trip to turn into what it is now. I told my sister-in-law that I needed some time to come up with a plan, so I needed her to give me some space to think about everything. She agreed to it and thanked me once again. I know I need to look out for my sister-in-law now because I need to protect not only her, but my niece, nephew from the monster of a person my brother is. I would really appreciate any advice to how I can get my sister-in-law out of this situation. I decided to apologize to my brother for lashing out at him, just so I can stay at this house for a couple more days. With a smug look on his face, my brother accepted my apology. I tried to act as normal as I could these days, all the while hatching a plan to help my sister-in-law out of this situation, and here's what I did. After a couple of days had passed since this entire situation had gone down, I tried to be on my best behavior in front of my brother. I did not question him, argue with him, or even talk much to him. I just went on with my days until the day that sister-in-law and I had decided to put our plan into action arrived. As planned, I first left the house with nothing but a purse under the pretext that I was going to the bar with a high school friend of mine. Similarly, my sister-in-law had told my brother that she was going to the local mall to buy things for the nursery, and that my dad was going to drive me and her to our destination. My brother agreed, as surprisingly, he saw nothing suspicious in it. So me, my dad, who was in with the plan, and my sister-in-law first made our way to their house, which is a couple of hours away, to pack up any important documents and a few pairs of clothes. I had packed my things and put it in my dad's car trunk the day prior, and thankfully no one had found that, as my brother had a separate car, and my mother rarely left the house. My dad left us by my brother's house, and we booked a cab from there to a hotel I had booked. Now, a lot of you might be wondering why my dad decided to side with my sister-in-law instead of my brother, who was paying for most of his expenses, and here's the thing. It wasn't my dad who was greedy for my brother's money. It was my mother who convinced him to let my brother pay for them, as she wanted to live a lavish lifestyle. My dad would never care if he did not have that kind of money in his life, as they were already leading a comfortable lifestyle before my brother's help, and he would rather have my sister-in-law, who was like a daughter to him, lead a comfortable life. My sister-in-law left a letter in her room stating everything she has to say. We are not worried about the cops, as we know we can always tell them that my sister-in-law had left willingly if they ever reach out to her. It's been almost 5 hours since we left. Needless to say that my and my sister-in-law's phone has already started blowing up with calls and texts from my mom and my brother, and honestly, I do not feel worried at all, as my brother has no basis to take any sort of action. I will be supporting my sister-in-law until she files for divorce. After the divorce, I will be helping her move to my country, where she will find a job to support herself and her child. NTA, OP's brother is toxic and sounds like a misogynistic man-child, and the mother's reaction shows exactly where he got that from. Your sister-in-law's reaction seems to be out of fear and manipulation. Please don't feel bad for standing up for what's bad, OP. I would suggest you to even try to talk to sister-in-law further to know the root cause of this situation. NTA, mom, relatives, and brother are the real a-holes here. Kudos to the dad and OP for having some self-respect and standing up for the right thing. I, 32-year-old male, and my brother Alan, 35, were raised by a single mother. Mom was nothing but loving and nurturing. Even when we struggled with money, she made sure we always had nice clothes and toys, even if she did her own shopping at garage sales. She would always spend time with us and support us. She delayed retirement to fund our college. After college, Alan started to only contact Mom for money. Then, after my niece, Zoe, 4, was born, it was for babysitting. He'd drop off Zoe, go out with his buddies, then pick up Zoe, never staying for even 5 minutes. Mom expressed feeling used, but Alan would guilt her with, "Do you not love us?" Then Mom got sick, and she couldn't live on her own anymore. I moved in to take care of her. Alan lived less than an hour away, yet he only visited her twice in those 2 years. He would ask for money, then make sure I was there so he could drop off Zoe and hang out with his friends again. Mom passed away 2 months ago. Alan didn't show up to the funeral or ash spreading, but did arrive for the probate. I received her house, car, and most of her savings. She had a sizable amount saved up. Alan received $5,000 and a few sentimental items from the house. Alan loudly complained, "That's it?" And we got into an argument. He said I manipulated Mom into getting more money, and she was the parent, so he didn't have to take care of her. I agreed that no, we didn't have to take care of Mom, and she never expected us to, but he should have helped her. And the fact that he only showed up now for money is disgusting. Fast forward to now. Alan calls me saying that his family would be evicted and they wanted the house. Not to share with me? For me to leave and him to keep Mom's house. Alan works a decent job and has a lease for a goddamn mini yacht. I told him I'm not bailing him out because he's living beyond his means. Alan said how he deserved the money after being kept on a leash by Mom for all those years. Note, Mom wasn't even very strict. She just kept her word. If she said you couldn't go out until you washed the dishes, then you wouldn't be leaving until you washed them. He has the option to live with sister-in-law's parents, but they disapprove of Alan and won't let him live there unless he gets his act together. Paying rent, either working or being at home with Zoe more, quit vaping, etc. Alan argued that it's unfair that he should have to move in with PIL and be treated like a child. I replied that Zoe behaves better than he is right now. Now, relatives say I should let them have the house and that I'm one person and as a family they need the house more. When I brought up Alan's treatment of Mom, they said that I need to put it aside and think of what's best for Zoe and my future niece. And it's what a good brother, uncle would do. Zoe and sister-in-law will be fine at sister-in-law's parents' house, though. I think Alan's demands are ridiculous, and he doesn't deserve the house money after his treatment of our mom. AITA? NTA, do not let him move in. It will be a disaster. I hope he doesn't have a copy of a key to your house. If he does change your locks, I would not put it past him to move himself in. He reeks of entitlement. To the relatives saying you should let your brother move in with you, just tell them that you'll let Alan know that they care so much about his well-being that they offered their place for his family. NTA, the relatives who are saying you should give the house to your brother are dumbasses. Your mother left you the house because she wanted you to have it. Your brother is a loser. If he were to get the house, he would do something stupid with it for sure and not even take care of it. Frankly, I'm shocked his wife's family is willing to let him move in with them. His family will be just fine with the in-laws, or maybe one of these relatives who are trying to guilt you into giving him the house. Perhaps they should take him and his family in. I bet they would shut up real quick if you asked them to step up and take care of him.